Hello friends, we are back here on League Unlocked. My name's Eric. Thank you for chilling out with us today as we tackle one of the biggest debates that are completely taking over the LoL eSports scene. We know what happened, NA versus EU at Rift Rivals. Clearly, and I do mean clearly, Europe was the superior region, which somehow, I don't know how this all started, has raised the question. Clearly, the top 3 teams in EU are better than the top 3 in North America. But what about the bottom half of the European teams against some of the top teams in NA? Yes, we are diving deep into the Rogue versus TSM debate. It all started, originally, Sven was asked, do you think Rogue would beat TSM? And he said, no chance whatsoever. I look at that Rogue roster, and I feel like I could just suit up 1v5 and beat that squad, which obviously is not true. And Sven he's had a good split, but not a good enough split to be talking about 1v5ing any pro team on the scene. And, Rogue was a meme last year. Sure, they were clearly the worst team in Europe, and having this conversation then would be absolutely ridiculous. TSM would smash them 10 times out of 10. But you come into 2019 summer, when they've brought in all this younger talent with Larson and Inspired in the jungle, Hiku, who actually has looked better than Woolite on the LCS stage, and they're a completely different team. They look a whole lot better. They're competing in Europe, which again is a much more difficult region to play in. So initially, you might be tempted to say TSM would destroy them 10 times out of 10, but I don't think it's actually that set in stone that they would destroy them. If we're looking and talking about the numbers that they have in their different regions, obviously, North America has played a lot more games, and TSM's numbers, they do look better on paper, but let's remember the competition that Rogue is going against. They have played everyone in the LEC except for Fnatic, which might hurt their numbers even a little bit more. Obviously, that goal difference at 15 really jumps out at you. They're the worst team pre-15 minutes. So the fact that they have 3 wins with that number is impressive in itself. And a lot of that is heavily skewed by the game that they got completely dumpstered by Misfits way back in week 1. Again, they've only played 8 games. So 1 game still has pretty heavy implications as opposed to North America, who have played 12 games. But Rogue, they've beaten Origin, and that's the main argument people have in this case, because Rogue beat Origin pretty handily, and you'll remember Origin kind of smashed TSM twice at Rift Rivals. So that's one big argument to be had. I think TSM should and would still be favorites in this matchup. Let's say they play a best of 5, but I think Rogue is winning at least 1 game in this best of series, and maybe it even goes to 5. So I think TSM still gets the edge, maybe 65-35 or 70-30, but this might be closer than you think, and that really just speaks to how much better Europe is right now than North America. I think you can legitimately say that Europe is absolutely still in the conversation as one of the best regions in the world. It's right there. You're talking about them with, I think right now, the LCK and Europe are clearly the 2 best, with the LPL a little bit behind them, and North America about 13 stratospheres below them when you're talking about worldwide regional strength. So the fact that Rogue, yes, they have a sub 500 record, and the numbers don't really look fantastic for them, but I still think they could put up a fight against TSM, which again speaks to the strength of EU and the weakness that we're seeing in North America right now. I mean, really, you go lane by lane in these matchups. Prophet has actually had a pretty stellar split. I think he could hold his own against Broken Blade, no doubt about that. I think Inspired against Acadian, who TSM has now announced will be the starting jungler for them going forward. It's no more Grig we're going to be seeing on the LCS stage unless Acadian struggles. I think Inspired, that's an even matchup. I might even give a slight edge to him over Acadian in that matchup. Bjergsen versus Larson, yes, Bjergsen has a pretty big advantage there, but Larson, I think, is one of the most talented up-and-coming players that we have in the European scene. I think in a couple of splits, we're talking about him right up there as some of the best, with some of the other best mid laners in Europe. So not as one-sided as you might think. I think he could hold his own, but obviously the edge goes to Bjergsen there. And Sven and Smoothie versus Hiku and Vander. Listen, in past years, you would say this is a disgusting mismatch. Sven versus Hiku will absolutely clobber him. But, I mean, they haven't looked good, Sven and Smoothie, in that laning phase at all as of late. So, I mean, Hiku and Vander, they're not going to win that lane, but are they really going to lose it? Are Sven and Smoothie going to completely punish that matchup? I don't think so. They play a safe lane, and maybe you go even there. So all of a sudden, your only real advantage on TSM is Bjergsen in that mid lane. So I know this is a completely meaningless debate about these two teams going head-to-head because there's absolutely no chance that they're playing each other anytime soon, maybe ever. Probably never see these two teams actually play. But it is a little bit fun to talk about a bottom 4 team in Europe going up against a top 4 team in North America. And there's legit argument to be had that it could be a close series. Obviously, if you go to Team Liquid against anyone outside of the top 3 in Europe, or top 4, I think they're going to completely destroy them. But Team Liquid, again, is at a totally different level than any of the other NA teams that we have here in 2019 summer. So TSM versus Rogue, let's make it happen as a fan match. Maybe just throw it down to some good old-fashioned TFT to determine who's really better. But TSM, a lot of question marks here in the summer split. This ain't the same TSM that went on an 11-1 run to close out the spring split. They've got a long road ahead of them if they want to get back to that level.